Wee.
Wee.
Dude, it's so weird. It's been so long since I've actually seen you.
Yeah, like I actually trimmed my beard a little bit a few days ago.
Ooh.
Like I used to have this like huge neck beard thing
Oh,
and it was just getting itchy, and I was like, nope, time to trim it.
I know. I get what the fuck is... My one roommate, Andrew, called it, like, I think, like a turkey neck? Is that what it's called? Where you just get the really long, like, neck beard?
I think turkey neck is something else.
Like a racial slur?
No. It's something that old people get, and it looks really disgusting.
Oh, like where their skin's all loose?
Yeah, and it looks like a vagina.
Oh. Kind of like Trump's.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 29 of the Nothing to Play podcast, a mediocre podcast about video games, movies, and goblins. As always, it's your boy, Justin Time Carter, and we got a spooktacular episode for you this week. I have a first-time guest on the podcast. I talk to him every day. He loves magic and horror movies as much as me. And he's also pled not guilty 3 times to assault with a deadly weapon. Jeff.
Thanks for having me, and most of that's true.
Yeah, you're right. Jeff doesn't really like magic as much as me.
I just don't like getting stomped. I love doing the stomping.
Yeah, when God damn it. When Jeff's mutate deck goes off, it stomps, and then I Ugin away the board.
And I hate it so much. Just rolling my eyes so far in the back of my head, I can see just the inside of my head right now.
Dude, I feel so I say I feel bad, but when I play when I play,
yeah. You're just like, yeah.
Well, it's because it's like when Megan started playing Arena not that long ago too, and I'll play her, and as soon as Ugin comes out, she just auto scoops the game, and it's just like nope, like, and I'm like, it's like I feel bad because it's like she fucking hates it that much that she's just gonna quit the game when it comes out, but at the same time I'm like, well, I want to win, and it's a card.
I don't necessarily blame her either. Like once you get that out, that's almost game. There's very rare that you can come back from him coming out and just board wiping everything on your side. Of course, you like save some on your side for the most part, unless you have to wipe the entire board, but it's hard to come back.
I was like, as they say, it do what it do, Yugi. Oh, dude, fuck you. You don't flip me off.
Hey, you're the one that plays Ugin all the time. I swear he's in, like, every deck you have.
Well, it's because...
He's like, if I get 8 mana, I'm just going to summon this guy.
Yeah, why
he's
play...
Not even in the deck. He's, like, from outside the deck.
If you're playing mono-green ramp, you have no reason not to throw an Ugin or 2. It's not like I play 4 copies of them. I'm not that asshole. I play 2 copies max. But it's like, if you're ramping into 8 mana, like... That's like the best thing for 8 mana you're gonna fucking play. Like, nothing else is gonna beat that.
I'm honestly surprised you don't run 4 copies. Like,
I'm not that big of an asshole.
It's debatable with some of these games.
God damn.
Some of the decks you build, and I'm just like, wow. Why is this a thing?
Whatever. Jess also, for the record, says he hates Mill, yet first match we played together today, what's he playing? Fucking mono blue Mill.
And it did good.
It did good, yeah. I was also playing red blue Mill. I think I was playing red blue Mill. And my all-in Mill deck. And he won 1, I won 1. And I think... Did I win that match?
I don't remember. I know there was so many good matches, but there was also some times where it's like I absolutely crushed you the first round. And then I had to mulligan myself into oblivion the next 2 games, and I'm like, well, that's game.
Well, yeah, you got mana screwed a couple times where you're sitting on 3 lands the entire game.
And here you are, going off, yeah, I have an entire board. sword. I got all these scoot
200 scoot swarms come swinging in. And then
you got like 50 copies of 3/4.
Yeah,
So it's like
mutate into Fabled Passage coming in.
That's definitely a deck I need to look into, but
yeah, it's right up your alley.
It is. It has mutate in it, and it has landfall, which I mean is okay. I don't have too many decks with that mechanic, but it definitely works.
Yeah, you can build your like 4-color Omnath landfall deck.
I do have an elemental deck, and I love it.
Yeah, but enough with us nerding out about Magic. We're here for spooky season, and even though it's November 4th because Jeff had family in town, so I didn't get to record this last week like I wanted to. Yeah, don't fucking beaker face at me.
Just add the spooky dookie skeleton song intro right here. Boom. End it and be like, yo, what's your favorite slasher flick?
Mine?
Yeah. Who's your favorite slasher?
So, like, for me, even though I honestly don't think he's the best, but Michael Myers is my favorite. What about you?
Okay, he's the most human.
Well,
all of them.
I mean, that's what's weird is like, I mean, he is human, I guess. I mean, in like the first movie, he's more referred to as like an unstoppable force than he ever is like an actual person. And then in the later Halloween movies, they kind of get weird with it, with the whole cult of Michael Myers and bullshit like that. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, every slasher has like 13 movies in their franchise. Like, they get nutty with their storylines after a while. It's like, okay, 1, 2, and 3 were good. Everything after that, they just get a little too crazy with it. They just start adding stuff, making up completely different storylines for this slasher. I mean, Freddy Krueger, pedophile, haunts your nightmares. I don't know how many movies they've done of him, but they got weird with it, and he goes up against Jason.
Dude, I remember that was the shit in middle school. Like when Freddy vs. Jason came out, like everyone was like losing it on the playground.
And it's a cool concept. I mean, throw all these killers into an arena, who comes out on top? Like a battle royale of slashers. That's a pretty cool concept. Like, I can get behind that. Throw in Mike Myers, throw in Ghostface, throw in a few other people. I mean, there's probably going to be a few, I guess, like Hollywood monsters you could throw in there too. Like, oh God, what is his face? Pinhead?
Mm-hmm.
From, not the Cube.
Fuck.
I'm old and I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember the freaking name of the
fucking
series.
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, yes.
The Cube.
He comes out of a cube, right?
There's the cube. Here, wait. Hold on 1 second. My fucking cat. Will you stop? Stop. God damn, dude. He's like sitting there fucking pawing at the goddamn door. You can like hear it and see it on the audio. It's just like because he fucking wants into the office. But I'm like, I can't have the fucking door open because then you'd hear an extremely goofy movie coming in.
Which is a good movie.
It is a good movie.
It's not a Halloween movie or a scary movie, but it's a good movie.
Well, yeah, I was like, speaking of Halloween. Well, first here, before I even go into Halloween, what's your favorite slasher? You never did say what yours was.
This is true. We got off topic there for a minute, which will probably happen
a lot
consistently. But I gotta stay true to my boy Jason.
See,
that's an unstoppable force. I mean, and then he just freaking appears out of nowhere and stabs some like freaking cheerleader through the chest with like a giant freaking machete.
I will say one of my like top 5 favorite slasher movies is Jason X because it
That's
is
the one where they're in space, right?
yes, because it's
Oh
so
my god,
it
it's
is so
cheesy, but it's so good.
it is like you're kind of like after like Jason goes to hell and like whatever, you're kind of like, all right, like where could they possibly take this next? And it's like some fucking like Star Trek, like knockoff Star Trek ship, and he's basically brought back to life using this like machine, and it like makes him better, and he gets the weird metal mask with like the red eyes, and it's like murdering space people.
They do the $1 Million Man crap. They make him stronger,
Yeah.
faster, more killy. Like, he can literally just burst through steel walls now because they make him like a T-1000.
Yeah, I would love to get like a Jason X2 or something of like he like plummets from space like back to Earth and is still alive.
I don't remember the premise of Jason X, like why they're in space, but I know it's like, I don't know, 100 years into the future or something, and we're in space with like this battlecruiser looking ship from StarCraft. And I don't know what they're doing out there, whether they want to colonize another planet or what, but what happened to Earth?
So out of, since Jason's your favorite, out of all of the Friday the 13th movies, which one's your actual favorite?
I want, as cheesy as it is, I want to say, I can't remember if it's the second or third one, in Manhattan.
Okay, well, because I want to say Jason Goes to Manhattan. I want to say that's like the. Let me look it up. I think it's like the 5th or 6th one.
It's so cheesy. Yeah. Oh my god. Jason Takes Manhattan. That's not even. Yeah. Like, I've seen a lot of these movies, and they just start to blend in together. So I'm like, I don't know which one.
You're like, it's one of them.
8.
It is 8. Man.
Yeah, it's 8.
Yeah.
Like I said, they have so many of these movies, I don't even know which one.
It is 8, yeah. I thought it was like the 5th one, but no, that's Jason Lives.
I was way off.
No, they were. Dude, did you watch the 2009 remake?
I don't believe so. 2009.
Because they did a thing a while back where they tried to reboot Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, and like neither one of them really did that well.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, I saw that reboot. They just couldn't capture, can't remember the actor's name, Eugene, I think is his first name. They just couldn't capture his essence of the character. It was so bad.
It
wasn't the character.
Like, and I like him as Rorschach in Watchmen, but I just could not get, like, I did not care for that movie at all until the very end of the movie. Like, the last minute of the movie, like, after everything's done or whatever, he, like, comes shattering, like, through a mirror or whatever, I think, and, like, pulls the girl in or something like that. And I was like, bro, that was the most Nightmare on Elm Street thing that happened in this entire movie, and it happened in, like, the last, like, minute of the movie.
It's Robert Englund.
Would you say you thought his first name was?
Eugene.
Eugene?
Not even close. Like I said, I'm old. I don't know. I'm terrible with names.
Like, Eustace Cumberbatch.
Good actor. A little weird. Too British for me because, you know, he is British, but, you know, he gets the job done.
Oh, man.
For the roles that he plays.
But, yeah, I think I have a sweet spot for Michael Myers because when I was a kid, like, I wanted to watch horror movies a bunch, and, like, I would rent some from, like, Hollywood Video and stuff. Like, when I hit a certain age, I think it was, like, about 6th grade, I think, is when I really started, like, watching horror movies. And because neither of my parents watch them, like, my mom actively does not like them, and my dad mainly watches, like, Westerns and, like, Little House on the Prairie and shit. So neither one of them are, like, even really movie people. But we would go to Hollywood Video and stuff, and I would rent like a bunch of, just peruse the horror section because I got into it. And one of the first horror movies that I actually ended up buying it at Half Price Books was Halloween H2O, which is the 20 years later with... It takes place, I want to say it's not the last one, because the last one was Resurrection or whatever, where it was like
It's probably the last good
reality
one.
show. It was the one before Resurrection, where it was the 20 years later, and her son, Jamie Lee Curtis, has a son, and he's like in college or like whatever, and fucking she works on the campus, and like Michael comes to town. And I actually really like Rob Zombie's first Halloween movie. I really enjoy that one. I fucking hate the second one. Like,
never saw the second one, but the first one wasn't too bad.
Yeah, like I really dug the first one. Like I will still watch it to this day. And I remember watching the second one, and I think the thing that pissed me off about the second one was that, I don't know, like they made him... Because you're right in the sense that it's like, he does shit, but it's like, he's genuinely like about as strong as like a normal human. Like, you know, he will keep pursuing you, but he's not like abnormally strong or like anything like that.
And the only reason why it seems like he is because like he's killing kids.
Yeah, and like women. And
although in the Resurrection one or whatever, the Rob Zombie one, I mean, yeah, he's definitely like coked out of his mind. Like he just has this strength about him because he starts killing like police officers, like actual big men, like lifts them and chokes them, like just
and it's
all this
like
stuff.
He is a tall, big dude in the Rob Zombie.
So he's got some strength. Like he's big and burly. He's got some strength.
But my thing is like, so in this...
Not retard strength.
In the second movie, though, the thing that like ruined, like multiple moments ruined it. I hated the fact that like he again forces his wife into the movie as Michael's mom, who's dead at this point, but she like appears to him as like a fucking... Goes in like, oh, you're doing so good, Mike. Like, what? I'm like, dude, you just forced her into the fucking movie. Like, quit pretending like you didn't. Like, we didn't need any of this. But there's like one point where he straight up like flips a fucking car. Like a car. Like he picks it up and like rolls the car. And I'm like, a normal person, even a slightly above average strong person, could not, from the side of a fucking car, just flip the fucking car like that. With people inside.
No, you gotta be someone who's like the Mountain from freaking Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be that guy.
Yeah. So he like flips it, and then like, I don't know. I was not a fan of the second one. So I was kind of glad that like John Carpenter did like the remake of the 2 or whatever. So now we're getting this like separate trilogy that kind of like deviates from like everything that you thought happened in Halloween before, like H2O and Resurrection and all the bullshit. They're like, we're keeping Halloween 1, and then this is the new 2, and then the following movies after this are going to branch off from this new version because it got too convoluted.
John Carpenter, that's a name I like. I mean, he does all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, dude. I also really dig, as a kid, like the movies, I watched a lot of Halloween, and like I watched a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. I really like Scream a lot too. And Scream is one of those where if you watch a lot of slasher movies and stuff like that, it really, like, you appreciate it so much more than if you've like never seen a slasher movie before, because it like makes fun of itself and like nails the tropes so good and is so self-aware, especially like once you get to like Scream 2 and 3 and stuff, to where like in the movie there is a franchise that is essentially Scream, but it's called something else within the movie, and they're like, it's like, oh, number 5 in space, whatever, and they're like, oh, dude, this one sucks compared to like what it's like. God damn it, like they nail
They're
it.
definitely self-aware, and like they almost break the fourth wall constantly with like those tropes. But I mean, Ghostface, that's the quote-unquote killer's name, right? What they name him in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they've made movies out of this character, and they've made tons of parodies. I mean, look at Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, my thing is like
that was also something that started a huge trend, like giant parodies of slasher flicks or just flicks in general.
yeah, it definitely started with Scary Movie and the horror movies, and then it branched out just into pretty much everything. Yeah.
Some were good, but there were a lot of misses.
Oh, it's too many misses. I mean, honestly, after like Scary Movie 3, I think like I don't think anything after 3 was really that good.
Once they got rid of the Wayne brothers, like that was it. Like 4 or 5 or however many they did after that, like they just sucked. Like I believe the Wayne brothers made those movies like as good as they were.
I think I actually went and saw 5 in theaters, and it was so bad. Like I don't even remember when that came out, but I just remember, let's see, because I remember seeing it, and I was just like, God, this is like, I can't believe I paid money to go see this.
Yeah, that's definitely something I would never go to theaters to see.
Yeah, Scary Movie 5 came out in 2013. So I was like 23.
And you paid to see that?
And I paid to see it. But hey,
Oof.
you know, at least I can sleep knowing that I gave Charlie Sheen some money.
Because he needs more for Coke.
Yeah, because, you know, after, you know, calling the executive producer of 2.5 Men a fucking Jew and losing his job, he never quite landed back on his feet after that.
Yeah, all these anti-Semitic people in Hollywood just losing their jobs. Like, oh god, who's the one who went crazy? He was the one in Braveheart.
Hold on.
And Lethal Weapon. Like, I can name almost every movie he's in. I just can't. Mel Gibson.
There you go. I was like,
thank God for Google.
I was like the
I
Hoff.
said, I am absolutely terrible with names.
I mean, so you
but
know
I can tell you
am.
every movie he's been in. But speaking of movies, though, going back to John Carpenter, like, I want to say one of my favorite movies is The Thing.
I do remember you saying that. It's been so long since I've actually seen The Thing.
The original came out back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Google says 82. So before I was even born. But I remember watching this and I'm like, these effects are crazy good. And I watched this when I was a kid. I was probably like 7 when I first watched it. Like I watched horror movies like since I was 4. Granted, some of these quote unquote horror movies I was watching by today's standards wouldn't be considered horror movies. Like Gremlins, for instance. That crap was scary for a kid. You know, this cute little mogwai turns into freaking murderous gremlins. But like nowadays, it's a freaking comedy.
Right.
A Christmas comedy of all things. Like it takes place during Christmas. But going back to The Thing, like if you rewatch it, these effects, because it's like real stuff, not like CGI or anything like that, practical effects, it still holds up to this day. Like it is some of the most disgusting stuff that you can find without like actually watching some kind of documentary about like some doctor opening up some dude, like making a freaking opening up his chest with that like cavity chest opener thing. Like
you have such a way with words.
Like I said, I'm old. My words in the brain doesn't come out correctly all the time. It's kind of there.
You're like, daddy's waiting down off his third nos now. His mouth words ain't working too good.
Dude, toddlers are so exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. I know you have dogs and a cat and a girlfriend or a fiance, whatever she is. I don't know. That other person living with you. But like a child, so much energy. You get a couple of those bad boys, put them on some freaking treadmills, hook them up to like a battery. You could, power up an entire city just off of children. Child labor. Bring it back.
Bring it back. 2020. Bring child labor back.
Put him on the treadmill. Make him run.
Uncle Biden's gonna put him in the factories.
This is, oh God, some Rick and Morty stuff right there.
Yeah. Do you remember what the first horror movie you actually ever watched was?
Ooh. I would actually have to look up the title of it, but the one that I actually remember as a child, my father was watching it in the bedroom, just like chilling, trying to stay away from his toddler for a few minutes, watching a horror movie. He's like, stop, don't come in here, I'm watching a horror movie. And of course, being a toddler, we're like, nah, screw you, I'm gonna bug you. God, I want to say it was like Demon House or something like that. Like, it's so old. I just remember it's like pretty cliche. A bunch of kids go to like this house, a Halloween party. They're partying a little too hard, but like a demon gets released and starts like offing them one by one. And depending on like what teen it's dealing with, it like kills them in that specific way. Like, this dude's just trying to get laid, so this demon turns into a sexy chick, but then, decapitates him.
Bites his dick off.
Not quite. But it was definitely not necessarily a snuff film, but like, it kind of felt like it. Being like, 5 and you're watching this, you're like, what am I watching?
You like can't even begin to comprehend.
You just see a bunch of teens like dying in a house, and it's like, okay, this hot demon chick is just murdering kids, and then takes the form of like another person, offs the other one, like just moves along until like they're all dead, except for like the virgin who lives. Like there's only one person who lives.
Always. You have to have the survivor girl.
Yeah, and it's always the virgin.
I remember the first one I watched was the 1976 Carrie.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, that was the first one that I ever watched, and it was funny because my mom was like, it was like when I first started, like I wanted to watch horror movies and stuff, and she wouldn't let me, and I was like, I can handle it, like I really want to watch it, whatever, and so she had recorded Carrie for me, and she's like, all right, fine, like if you want to watch horror here, so she like recorded it on the VHS and stuff, and
let's test the waters. Watch this.
Yeah. So I watched it, and then like afterwards, she was like, well, like how I was like, oh, I was like, I'm fine, like whatever, and I went to bed, and then like 20 minutes later, like come back out in the living. Yeah, well, I come back out in the living room, and I'm like, I can't sleep.
I wonder why.
Yeah, she's like, I knew it. But then it's like, I was fine. Like, that was, I think, like, the only time that happened. The only other time I can ever remember, like, my mom actively being like, was in high school, like, my freshman year and stuff. So, like, 2004, I think, is when, like, Saw came out. And I really wanted to watch Saw. And my mom just was not having it. Like, she wouldn't let me rent it from... Like, I had rented horror movies all the time from fucking Hollywood Video, and she would not let me rent it from Hollywood Video. And because it was R-rated, like, I couldn't fucking rent... They wouldn't rent it to me. I was like 13, 14. And, I was like, fuck. And like all my friends in high school and stuff like were talking about Saw and had seen it and shit. And I was like, damn it, dude! Like I want to fucking watch it. And then Saw 2 came out, and again I hadn't seen 1, and everyone's talking about it. And then finally,
can't be the cool kid.
Yeah, and I still couldn't rent it or see it or whatever. So then Saw 3 came out on DVD or whatever, and we stayed the night at a bunch of us stayed the night at my friend Justin's house, and he ended up having 1, 2, and 3 on DVD, and I was like, yes! I was like, I finally get to watch it, and we ended up watching them, and then I don't even remember, like, it was like years later, like, it came out or whatever, like, someone brought it up or whatever, and my mom was like, you watched those movies? Like, she's like, it's like, bro, I'm like 17 at this point. Like, I could rent it if I wanted to. Like, but I was like, yeah. I was like, we watched him at Justin's house, and I liked him.
She's like, that piece of shit.
Right? Dude, well, in high school, too, I was like, I think it was like my sophomore year or something. It was when the Tarantino, the double feature, Death Proof and Planet Terror or whatever came out.
Grindhouse
Yeah, Grindhouse.
Stuff. Yeah.
There we go. When Grindhouse came out to theaters, like a bunch of us, because I was friends with a bunch of the band kids and stuff, and a bunch of us wanted to go see it, and but none of us were old enough to actually get tickets, except for, like, I think there was, like, 1 or 2 of the band kids who were old enough, so they bought tickets for all the ones who, like, weren't old enough to actually, like, buy tickets. And, we ended up, like, Justin's grandparents ended up, like, getting the tickets for us, but they didn't realize what they were getting the tickets for us for, because they were, like, old. And, like, Justin, like, had them, like, order it online and stuff. And they were like, oh, like, what are you going to go see? And I was like, oh, we're going to go see Grindhouse. And then Justin fucking backhands me in the chest. And she's like, what? And Justin's like, Mickey Mouse. He's like, we're going to go see the Mickey Mouse movie. And she's like, oh, okay.
That's believable.
Yeah.
What?
But they drove us to the theater and stuff. And I was, like, so scared because I was like, dude, like, are they going to, like, try and, like, ID us or anything? Because for this movie, this was the first time I actively remember them having someone standing in front of the theater checking tickets so that people couldn't buy, like, a PG-13 movie ticket and then just fucking walk into Grindhouse or whatever. Like, they actively had someone, like, making sure you had tickets to Grindhouse. And we, like, between, like, all our friends, we ended up taking up, like, an entire row in the theater. And, like, we, like, let some people in, like, through, like, the exit door and stuff to, like, get into the movie and stuff. But I remember watching it, though, and then there was, like, this dude with his son, and his son looked like he was maybe, like, 6. And he took him to see that shit, and it was, like...
What a good day.
Yeah, and it was, like, during the intermission shit with, like, the Nazi werewolf shit with, like, the Nazi girls with their tits out everywhere and stuff, and he's, like... covering the kid's eyes, and I'm like, dude, you're such a piece of shit for taking your kid to this. Like,
but I mean, sometimes, like, you gotta. But granted, I wouldn't take my kid to, like, a movie like that.
Exactly. Like, I was like, would you take
we're in a
Dean?
Day and age, we just stream that. Like, I'm watching horror movies at home, but he's just off playing with toys. But he'll, like, look up and be like, then go off and play.
Like, he's like, I don't care about this.
But I'm also like one of those people who wouldn't take their freaking kid to a movie theater anyway, because what child is gonna sit for like an hour and a half or whatever for a movie? None.
Dude, it is such a we've taken Megan's little brother Killian when he was younger and stuff to the movies, and it was such a fucking miserable experience the entire time.
Yeah, kids shouldn't... I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed in movies, but you shouldn't take them to the movies.
Well, it's not even like he was being loud or anything, but it was just like we took him to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and luckily we had already gone, I think, the week previous to that and actually seen it with, like, our friends and stuff. So it wasn't like, so I was fine with it because I'm like, cool, like, I've already seen the movie, so I'm not gonna miss anything. So, but that wasn't the case for some other movie we took him to. But yeah, he's like, getting in and out of his fucking seat. And we're like, sit down. And dude, I had to take him to the bathroom like 6 times. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, quit. Like, yeah, he's like, I need to go to the bathroom. And she's like, Jay, can you take him to the bathroom? I'm like, oh, fine. So then I like have to squeeze past all the other people, fucking take him to the bathroom. And then he comes out and he's like, wants to play at the arcade. And I'm like, no, dude, the movie. I'm like, movie. And then we take him back and then he sits down and then like chugs fucking 30 liters of Sprite. I'm like, dude, stop. Like, you're gonna have...
This is why you gotta pee.
Yeah. And then 15 minutes later, he's like, I have to pee again. I'm like, of course you do. Like, god damn it. Like, stop.
They have the smallest bladders, and you just gave them a freaking, like, 12-liter of Coke.
Well, I didn't know that. Yeah. Like, I drink an entire... The only time, like, I rarely ever have to pee during a movie. And I think the one exception was when I always get a large icy, and I always end up chugging like fucking half of it during the previews because I'm terrible with drinks. And if you ever make me hold on to a drink at like the state fair or like whatever walking around, I will just like, I'm not even thirsty, but just like out of habit, like I will just sit there and drink it if it's in my hand until it's gone. Like every time. And
I looked up, by the way, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Just to interrupt real quick. I looked up the movie that I saw as a kid.
Yeah.
It's called Night of the Demons.
Oh.
It was released in 1988.
All right. That's not that old then.
I was close. Demon was in the title.
You're like, that is true. That was a pretty good memory for something that you like barely remembered.
Yeah, I was like 5 or 6 or some crap. Like, I just remember it was so weird. But it is something that like later throughout my life, I want to say probably like 2-3 years ago, I ended up rewatching it. And I'm like, oh, this is that movie that I watched as a kid that my father was watching. Just like randomly found it on, I want to say it was like Amazon Prime or something like that.
You're like, and then it spooked me so bad, I wet the bed.
No, definitely not. When I was a kid, that was a problem regardless. I mean, you're just going to wet the bed.
Just like...
Don't drink a bunch of water before bed.
Just like, and even as a 34-year-old adult, it still is a problem.
Liquor is quicker.
But yeah, no, I think the only time I ended up having like last time I can remember using the bathroom at the theater was when we went and saw fucking Endgame. And it's because it was like 3 hours long and I had to pee so bad and I tried holding it as long as I could and then I was like, I need to go. But I don't think I missed anything because it was like during like the lull period before time travel.
Okay.
Dude, a different time though, when we went and saw, what was it? Ponyo. Ponyo was in theaters for like a limited time. And me and Matt and Chris and stuff, we went and saw Ponyo. But like, I was wearing this like big like Scott Pilgrim like jacket. And I brought this like bottle of strawberry Smirnoff vodka, like the big, like into the theater with us. And I got an icy and I like mixed it with the icy and stuff. So we got fucking sloshed and we were like the only people in this theater. And like Matt was sitting a couple rows away from us with his sister, like watching him. And we were like throwing popcorn at him and shit and like being obnoxious. And I was so fucking drunk that like when we left the movie, I was walking like out of the theater, like down the aisle, and it has that like, it was one of those theaters where it's like the floor has that small like repeatable pattern.
Incline.
Well, it had not the incline, but just the pattern of the carpet. You know, it's like that little design just repeated all over the carpet. And I was like looking at the carpet and I was walking, everything was like woo woo woo, and I was like, oh shit, like I need to sit down. So I sat down on one of the fucking like motocross fucking arcade games. And I was like, I need to sit here for like a minute and like sober up a little bit before I leave.
Getting drunk at Ponyo. Really, Ponyo?
Yeah,
Of all
it was
movies?
Ponyo. Yeah.
God. Yeah. Back to horror movies.
I know. See, I told you, derailed.
Horror in general. Like, not freaking anime about, like, a squid girl or whatever.
She's a beautiful fish girl, Jeff.
Fish girl. Okay.
Yes.
Whatever.
All right.
Miss Squidward.
All right then. So then, what would you say then? What would like three besides The Thing? What would like three of your top horror movies be?
See, the problem is, like, I don't even know if you would consider it a horror movie, but it's in, like, the same wheelhouse, I guess. Alien.
I mean,
it's like a sci-fi suspense / horror, maybe.
Like,
but if you just want to get straight horror, it was actually a TV movie, It. The one with the clown.
Okay, the 1991.
I mean, that's the classic.
Yeah,
but
with Tim Curry.
I will say the remake is actually pretty good too.
No, the remake they did do, especially like the first part and stuff. Like they nailed.
Yeah, the first part one was amazing. The second part trailed off. Still good though.
Yeah,
by all means. But chapter 1 was definitely better than chapter 2, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
But as far as the classic, like, Tim Curry, man, he's so nutty. Like, I just love it. And I mean, Stephen King does a whole bunch of good stuff too. And I mean, some of it's cheesy as hell because based off of like his budget and the time frame that it was made. Another TV movie, The Stand, not necessarily a horror, but like post-apocalypse. Like, you have two factions, like the good and the bad, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, one's following some dude who has all this charisma, but he's basically Satan. And then you have, like, the other faction, the good side, following this lady who's like Aunt Jemima.
Old black woman in rocking chair.
Like, she's so sweet. And it's like, oh, man.
She's like a storm is coming. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you got, like, the crazies. I mean, I want to say his name was Trash. And he's like, I got this nuclear bomb. Ah! He just drives it in the middle of the city and, like, lets it go. Like, okay. You do you.
You do you, baby.
Just stay away from me. Like, he just goes and gets a nuke. Drives into the city.
Yeah, I was like, I went and saw the Pet Cemetery remake and stuff when it came to theaters.
I actually haven't gotten around to seeing that, but I've heard not good things about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually thought it was pretty good. Like, I didn't have like high expectations for it or anything, but
that's probably why then you go in with really low expectations, like, this is gonna be fucking crap.
Like, I mean, I didn't have, like, I wouldn't even say I had low expectations, but, like, I saw a trailer for it and stuff, and, you know, I was like, oh, like, I've seen the original, like, a long time ago or whatever, so I was like, I'm down, and I actually thought, like, compared to some of, like, Stephen King's, like, movies that have, like, come, besides It, like, the Dark Tower or whatever, like, wasn't that great. That came out.
Yeah,
like,
that was a huge miss.
Yeah, so it's like compared to like besides It, like the last couple Stephen King movies that came out were not that good. So I was actually surprised that I thought it was pretty good in comparison to what had been coming out. I'm trying to think, like, for me, like top 3 that I can think of for horror movies that I really like. Well, one of my all-time favorites is The Strangers. Like, I love The Strangers. I was initially excited, like, back in, like, I don't know, like, 2007 or whatever, when they said that they were going to do a sequel. And then the sequel came out in like 2018 or fucking something, and it was just awful. And I was like, man, I really wish they didn't do this. But no,
wait, not to cut you off, but did I give you a third one?
I don't think so. I mean, you started just listing off Stephen King TV movies.
I was like, these are good, but no. So my bad, just cutting you off and being like, here's my third one, and it's not necessarily a movie. It is another TV show, and I want to say it was like the late 70s, early 80s. Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, it's like,
remember that?
Yes, I do remember. That's not a movie though. That's a TV show.
Yeah, that's a TV show. But that's definitely one of my favorites. Yeah, throw that out.
That's one of my favorite TV shows.
Like, come on, like some skeleton dude just giggling in a freaking labyrinth or whatever, crypt, and he's like, "I'm just gonna freaking tell you these spooky dooky stories." Sit down.
Giggling in Pan's Labyrinth over here.
Come sit down. Listen a while. Let me tell you my tales from the crypt. Like, it's so good.
Well, yeah, it was like the more adult version.
So many good memories.
Of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Honestly, yes. Like, that's some like adult Goosebump stuff.
So besides The Strangers, my other two, damn it, Jeff, I had them, and then you threw me for a loop. Fuck, like, I don't remember.
Ponyo?
Yeah, Ponyo's on that list. No, like, I don't know. In terms of like more modern like horror movies and stuff, like I really dug It Follows.
That wasn't too bad. That was, but the idea of it being a sexually transmitted disease or like curse, it's like, oh, okay.
I mean, I thought that was interesting. Like that was definitely a interesting take on it. And the fact that like you can sleep with someone to pass it on, but then if the person before
they die, it
comes back.
So basically, just be a prostitute and just start sleeping around.
Basically, that's like what the one he's like.
And hope to God, like by the time you're old, it's like, okay, whatever, I'm old, just take me.
But yeah, it definitely had like some really good kind of like moments in it and stuff, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that it was obviously heavily inspired by Japanese horror.
Japanese horror definitely have a way of doing things like Ju-on, I guess is the Japanese version
of The Grudge.
The Grudge.
Yeah.
Of course, like The Ring, and what other like movies has it basically spawned for like Hollywood?
I don't know. I know there's. I mean,
and of course, the Portuguese movies record like the whole like possessed zombie infection kind of stuff. Like those were good.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about that the other day. We were talking about like the Blair Witch Project and stuff, and how it was like the first kind of found footage movie, and like that. I was saying how I don't think the Blair Witch Project is really a good movie, but all the publicity and like all the like shit that they did to build up the Blair Witch Project to it actually coming out in theaters made it way scarier than it actually was. And that was genius, and like nothing to that scale to this day has like ever been like done again.
Because I remember when that came out, like there were people who legitimately thought it was real.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's also kind of goes hand in hand like with the times and stuff, because it's like, around this time it's like the internet wasn't like what it is today and stuff like that. So I mean, the movie came out in 1999, and so like, it's not like you could really just Google if it's real or whatever, like, and they did like on the like I said, I think it was on the History Channel or it was the Sci-Fi Channel, something like there was a legitimate like mockumentary that they did about the Blair Witch, like leading up to the movie and stuff, that like delve into all this like fake history about the Blair Witch and stuff, and they were like interviewing like professionals or whatever who like studied like the Blair Witch and stuff like that, and it was so good, and it really validated it and made it seem real.
Yeah, they definitely had, like you said, a lot of publicity, like, to get that movie where it was.
Yeah.
And it definitely started, like, a trend of, like, the found footage genre. So, I mean, you have Record, which is, like, the whole... It ended up being... I don't know how many they did, but, like,
I know
demonic possession
yeah,
kind of stuff.
I know they did at least 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah. Like, it started off as, like, a infection, like zombies or something, and then, like, they had one where it was, like, demonic possession, and then, like, another time it was basically just, like, a parasite. So, I don't know what direction they wanted to take it, but, like, each movie had its own, like, how they were portraying this, like, outbreak of basically people turning into zombies. And then, of course, you have all the paranormal activity stuff, like spooky dooky ghosts everywhere. And I guess, I don't know, didn't, like, that spawn other stuff from that? Like, The Nun or something? Or
Well,
am I thinking
that
of something
you're
else?
thinking The Conjuring now.
Yeah, The Conjuring.
Well,
yeah.
because The Conjuring ended up spawning. I mean, there was The Nun, which was the prequel or whatever to The Conjuring 2, and then it also spawned all the Annabelle movies.
That, like, doll or whatever.
Yeah, the little girl doll thing, and there was like fucking 3 of those.
Chucky's ex-girlfriend.
Dude, so, I mean, as soon as I said Blair Witch, I remembered that my other 2 movies that were my top favorites were Paranormal Activity 2 and Insidious.
Okay.
Those were... I would get high all the time and fucking watch those, and I just love them so much.
Smooth.
But no, what was I gonna say? Oh, have you ever seen The Boy?
That's the wooden doll.
Yeah,
right?
it is a
Like
doll thing. It's like a little porcelain looking thing where the family or whatever thinks that like the doll's possessed by their dead son.
So
And they
I haven't seen it, but I know of it because I, like, keep seeing it on, like, Netflix or Hulu or something like that. I'm like, maybe one day I'll watch it because I've just been watching a bunch of horror stuff. Like, I watched the second Babysitter that came out on Netflix because I loved the first one. I think that was released last year or the year before that, Halloween time. And then I've been watching Evil, which is a newer Netflix series where basically you have a priest and a DA, like, prosecutor, basically just trying to find out, like, are these legitimate miracles or, like, possessions, or is there some kind of, like, scientific reasoning behind it? So,
starring Luke Cage.
yes, starring Luke Cage himself, since, you know, they canceled him. But no, like, that tall, dark chocolate man, like, they explain about 90% of the show, but then, like, there's a good 10% where it's like, was that something that's unexplainable? Like, is this really a demon or a ghost? Like, they leave that there almost like every episode where it's like, look, we can explain most of this, you know, due to schizo, but then, like, something else happens and it's like, yeah, we can't explain that.
You decide. But no, The Boy, me and Jonathan we're going to go see the second one was coming out in theaters, and I had never seen the first one, and neither had Jonathan, and I had heard about it, and I had heard people who had actually watched it say it was good, but I had just never watched it, and I was like, all right, well, if we're going to go see the second one, I was like, we should probably watch the first one. So I, like, downloaded it for us. And I watched it and I was genuinely surprised how good it was. Like, I expected nothing from it, and I thought I like saw where this was going, and it leads you down a certain path, and then like the last 20 minutes, it's like, and then shit happens, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I was not expecting that, and then the entire last like 20 minutes of the movie, like the finale, like plays out, and I was like, damn, that was not expected. It's super good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking it up, and it's this chick. She's played in looks like a lot of TV shows. She plays Maggie in The Walking Dead. She's played in Supernatural, Vampire Diaries. So she's definitely got like
all of Jeff's favorite TV shows.
Hey. They're all good shows, I'm not gonna lie.
That's
like,
all you have to say. You're just like, hey.
Hey, I love Supernatural. Walking Dead, love it. Vampire Diaries has its moments. My wife loves it, and I got into it as well. Your boy Damien is the best.
Oh, man. What was I gonna say? Ooh. So, speaking of spooky dooky Halloween stuff, what was your favorite costume that you dressed up as for trick-or-treating that you can remember? In fact, what were some of your costumes that you even dressed up as?
So, as a child, remember, this was like a different day and age where like people actually tried like costumes and stuff. Like they tried to do good. I mean, there's definitely some people today that like go all out. They love Halloween. But like back in the day, I feel like everyone went all out. At least where I was, like everyone had dope costumes. Like they tried their best and made such cool outfits. Like pretty much nothing was store bought. It was all like homemade and stuff. One year I was a little werewolf. So I had like tattered jeans and like a so much glued hair on me. It probably took me like 2 or 3 days of like bathing to get all of it off. And it was just so fun. Like glued on like fingernails and stuff. The fake teeth, obviously. And like a huge mane, pretty much. Like it was the Wolfman. And I want to say I was like 8 or something. 7 or 8. And I was this little Wolfman. And I would say that's probably the best and coolest costume that I've ever had. And I was a kid. But as a kid, I mean, you know, you always had your, like, I'm a mummy this year. I'm a vampire this year. Like, those tropes, cliches or whatever. And then, of course, like, one year, Ninja Turtle. Like,
yeah.
You were always a superhero at least 1 year, you know, of some sort. But definitely as a kid, those were like the best years for Halloween. For sure. Like when you're 10 and under.
Yeah.
After that, it's just like, whatever, I'm just here for the candy. Shut up.
Load up my bag.
Like after 10, you're like, I don't even try anymore. I just want candy. Go buy me candy. If you're not going to buy me candy, I'm going to put on the stupidest costume and just go get a bunch of free candy.
Yeah, I was like, as a kid, like when you said that, like I remember being like Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one year. I was Buzz Lightyear another year. I was the Green Ranger from Power Rangers. I was Tommy one year, and like my mom's friend Cindy did sewing and stuff, so she like sewed using gold fabric and stuff. Like I had the dragon armor and like the suit and everything, and I had like a Green Ranger mask and stuff. It was so good. And of course I had the toys, so I had like the dragon flute and stuff already, and like the morpher and all that stuff.
It's a mighty morphin.
My favorite one that I can remember though was I was Steve Irwin the one year. But
what?
But he was alive. He was still alive, but I loved Steve. So I had the safari kind of outfit, and I had the hat and like a rubber snake around my neck and stuff. And
crikey, look at that!
Yeah, I was like,
I'm gonna put my thumb up its butt.
I was like, it's the 8-pocket kangaroo.
God, South Park made so much fun of him, but it was like out of love at the same time.
Right. And then, like, I remember, like, one year, because I know in, like, later years and stuff, it's like, I didn't try as much. It was, like, a Michael Myers mask with, like, a monk robe, like, type of shit and stuff. But
yeah, see, like, after 10, pretty much, that's, like, the cutoff of, like, you trying.
Right.
You're just like, whatever.
Well, yeah, because I remember now as, like, a kid and stuff, like, the one year I was, like, a Men in Black agent, and so I had, like, the suit with the tie and everything, and, like, the little pin and stuff, and wore sunglasses, and then, what was funny was, so my mom worked at Metro Center, at Metro Watch, and the one year for Halloween, we did, like, a group theme, and it was South Park, so I was Stan. My mom was Kyle. My mom's friend Sheila was Cartman. And I think her friend Jessie was Kenny. But it's like I had like Stan's hat and I had like a brown jacket and stuff. And my mom had like Kyle's hat. Like we all had like the hats and stuff. And I had like a stuffed Mr. Hanky doll and stuff. And like I helped make out of cardboard. I made the like South Park sign and stuff. And we put it in the front window at the watch store inside Metro Center and stuff. It was great. And they decorated it with like fake snow and stuff.
That's such a good show.
Yeah, it was so good. I was like, I'll have to find the picture. There's like pictures of it in like a photo album somewhere because this was before digital photos. So it was like Kodak develop photos and stuff.
Yeah, you had to go to like Walgreens to get it.
Yeah, the Fry's grocery store used to have a drop-off box where you could just drop off your film to be developed, and then you could just pick it up at Fry's. That's what she used to do. I'm trying to... Like, what's your favorite candy that you used to get trick-or-treating?
Like, that's a tough one because I have a sweet tooth, so we could be here a while.
Okay, your favorite.
Favorite?
Or at least couple. Like, yeah, I don't need your whole fucking grocery list of candy.
Just start naming every candy. I love it. Probably chocolate, I guess. So, either Kit Kat or Twix are top tier for me, for sure.
See, that's funny because mine's kind of the opposite because I'm not a really big chocolate person. So a lot of my favorite candy is like the Wonka shit. So it's like bottle caps were like one of my favorites to get. And like Laffy Taffy was like okay at first, like, and then you end up with like a bunch of like the banana ones or fucking something. I'm like, God damn it, like I don't want just a bunch of Laffy Taffy. But like my favorite thing if I ever got was like the little, like I love Airheads. Like I will destroy like an entire bag of Airheads. And so the little mini Airheads and stuff were like always my favorite. And then you get the mystery flavor ones that are white and they end up tasting like watermelon or strawberry or some shit. And it's so good.
I can get behind that. Like, I definitely love gummies as well. So, like, gummy worms or...
some Trolleys, sour gummy worms. Jeff's, like, looking through his garbage can to see what he just ate recently. Like some
Lifesavers Big Ring Gummies.
Skittles.
Eat one right now. I got bags of candy next to me. No.
Just like I ain't sharing.
No, she's like, is the video going on? And I'm like, no.
You're like, no, as you're naked in front of the camera. Oh, got that peach ring.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's the thing. It's like Megan likes peach rings, but like she'll only ever eat them on like car trips. Like when we would drive to California to get tattooed and stuff, like we'd go into the gas station and get like a bag of peach rings. But she doesn't like them when they're super soft. She likes them to get a little stale first.
Yeah, the Lifesaver Gummies, Big Ring, same ballpark, just so much sugar. So sweet.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jeff probably consumes like 400 grams of sugar a day.
Oh, at least, my dude.
And he needs it in order to be a functioning adult, because if he gets even just 1 gram less than that, his body starts to shut down.
I need at least 2 NOSes to function, because I don't drink coffee. Like, I'm old, but never been a coffee fan.
Do me neither.
And then, like I said, I have a sweet tooth. Like, I literally have pumpkin cheesecake in my freezer. And I'm like, 1 piece every night.
You're like, for all of November. Well, that's like...
As long as they have it available, I will buy it.
I used to have a really big... Like, I used to be candy. Like, I would eat Airheads. I would eat Skittles all the fucking time. And, like, Starburst and sour, like, gummy worms and a lot of Japanese candy. Like, I still have a bunch of it, as I have this one. I don't know what flavor it's supposed to be, but it tastes exactly like a waffle cone. It is a hard candy, but it's also etched like a waffle cone, so it's like weird, but it's definitely not supposed to taste like a waffle cone. I do not know what it's supposed to taste like, but that is exactly what it tastes like to me, and it's so good, and I used to like eat those all the time.
Dope. So now we're talking about candy instead of horror stuff.
Well, I mean, it was pertaining to Halloween, though.
True.
Yeah, which was part of it. It was Halloween / horror stuff.
Okay, Halloween theme, candy, go hand in hand.
Yeah, we were talking about costumes. Dude, did you ever watch the? I think I asked you before and you said no, but the MTV's TV show for Scream.
I've actually seen the first season.
But you didn't watch season 2?
No, because I watched it. I want to say almost when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
On a streaming service. So whenever they released the second season, which I think you said it was fairly recent, right?
I know. I mean, the second season came out years ago. Like,
oh god, they got 4 seasons now. Never mind.
Well, so let me rewind. So for the one you're talking for the MTV Scream set, they only have 2 actual seasons, and then they did like a weird reboot thing, like with that wasn't the same team or like anything, like, and it was like a short 6 episode like fucking bullshit.
Okay.
So really the main series was only 2 seasons, and then they did like a special, and then they did like a 6 episode weird spin-off series, because the first 2 seasons, you know, they didn't actually have the rights to the actual Ghostface mask. So they used like a different mask or whatever.
This knockoff looking one.
Yeah, but then in the spin-off, whatever 6 episode one, that one actually had the rights to the Ghostface mask, but it sucked. Like, that 6 episode thing was so bad, and I actually thought the 2 seasons of whatever was actually really good, and I was kind of pissed that it ended without any, like, real conclusion or anything.
Yeah, so they got the quote-unquote 3 seasons, and then there's talks of a season 4. But it's not, like, for sure. Like, has the show been renewed for a fourth? Question mark. Yeah, no one knows.
Well, I know they're making a new movie, and it has Monica from Friends in it reprising her role.
Okay.
Which I can get behind. I didn't think the last Scream movie was that good, but...
No, like many things, when they start getting into, the larger numbers, it starts going downhill.
I mean, you're not wrong. That's right. I was Googling Scream 6, and I forgot that in Scream, the movie series or whatever that is basically making fun of Scream within Scream is called Stab.
So good.
Stab.
Yeah, I'm looking at popular horror shows, and I'm like, I can get behind a lot of these. So I wouldn't necessarily think that all of these are considered horror, but I mean, they definitely have aspects of horror in them, like Stranger Things. Not necessarily a horror, but definitely good, by all means, in my opinion. American Horror Story, obviously horror. Walking Dead, I love zombies. I'm hooked. Supernatural, love it. Let's see, Creep Show. Apparently they did a reboot on it. I'm gonna have to check that out. I remember watching Creep Show like early 80s, I want to say. Basically like Tales from the Crypt, where they just have a bunch of random stories.
Dude, the one next to Creep Show, Channel Zero, that's the one I was telling you about with the where it's kind of similar to American Horror Story, where each season's like a different thing. And it's like season 1 is Candle Cove, where it's the kids watching a TV channel, the TV show Candle Cove or whatever, but adults only see it as a static like TV channel. And it has
Oh, that's kind of weird.
And that's like the picture. It's like a monster made out of human teeth, and like kids offer their teeth to the monster as like tribute for like protection and shit.
That's kind of bananas.
No, it's so weird. It's so good. And then there's like a puppet on the TV show called God damn it, what's his name? I want to say it's like Lockjaw or something like that. And he's like some weird pirate puzzle thing. It's like an island that like actually exists or whatever. Like, it's super good.
Okay. Let's see. Kingdom. So like old school like Edo era zombies or whatever. Let's see. Z Nation, more zombies. There's Scream. Yeah, 3 seasons on Netflix. Apparently there's another series just called Slasher. 3 seasons on Netflix.
I think I started Slasher, but I don't think I ever got that far. I think I only ever watched like the first episode or 2, and I didn't get too far into it.
So I wouldn't say this is a horror. This is definitely a comedy because it's a mockumentary. What We Do in the Shadows. So I loved the movie, and I've seen the 2 seasons on Hulu, and I honestly can't wait until the 3rd one drops when they start doing that. Like, it's just so dumb and funny.
Dude, even though I'd say it's more like sci-fi horror, I would definitely throw Black Mirror in there. Like, Black Mirror is like genuinely terrifying with some episodes.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely another one that I've been meaning to watch. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And I know they made a movie as well, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. The movie, though, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure thing. It's not, the movie doesn't hit anywhere near like as good as the actual like first couple seasons of the show do.
What is it, like Bandersnatch or something?
Yeah. I mean, it's still cool because it's like a choose your own adventure and it involves video games and stuff, which is,
okay,
cool. But yeah,
because I remember my cousin was talking about it and he's like, I loved it. I was like, okay.
No, it was pretty good. Dude, have you ever watched the Hannibal TV show?
I have not.
Oh man.
But I do love the whole Hannibal Lecter stuff. Like those movies with oh my god, I'm drawing a blank because I'm so old. But like I want to say my favorite movie out of those is Red Dragon for sure. Although Silence of the Lambs is amazing. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins just does an amazing like smart killer.
Yeah, dude, the Hannibal, the TV show and stuff was so good. Like I was so sad kind of how, cuz it's like I feel like it would have been so much better like they kind of got canceled and stuff, and like season 3, they kind of knew that was going to be like their last season and stuff. So I don't think they kind of really got to do everything with it they wanted to. But it's like season 1 was great, and like season 2 was fucking fantastic. Like it was so good.
It has freaking Lawrence Fishburne in it? Okay. Yeah, it was only around for what, 2 years apparently? 2013 to 2015. So they only did like what, 2 seasons maybe?
Well, they did 3. Yeah, it was 3 seasons. And
Okay.
each season was only 13 episodes, but yeah, no, it was super good. Cuz like it's like season 1 was like, I think what made season 2 so good was cuz it's like season 1 was like a lot of like, there's like stuff in motion, but it's a lot of build up, and then it's like all that build up like pays off like in like the last, I want to say it's like the last episode
Of
of
like each season or something.
yeah, like it builds up in season 1, and then like first episode of season 2, like the first fucking 10 minutes like shows you like some shit you've been like waiting to fucking see, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it does like, okay, well, how did we get here sort of thing. And then the entire season is like rebuilding back up to that like first moment at the beginning of the season, and then like at the end it like all finally plays out, and it's so good. Like they totally did the classic sitting there floating face down in the pool, how did I get here sort of thing.
A lot of movies and shows do that. And obviously, depending on how they go about it and like execute, really makes or breaks said movie or show.
Well, it's because it's like such a trope that it's like either,
it's almost cliche at this point.
Well, it is, and it's one of those things where it's like a lot of them I think try to play into it ironically, and it ends up not coming off that way, but then the ones that like do actually like nail it, it's great.
Okay, quick question for you. Out of all the movie monsters, what would you say is your favorite?
Out of movie monsters, man, I would probably like. Are we talking like the classic like movie monsters, like
So,
Creature from the Black
we'll do a
Lagoon?
two-part. Yeah, we'll do two-parter question here. So, first one, we'll just leave it as the classic monsters, which I think is like maybe 10.
Yeah.
And then the second part question, we'll open it up to like just anything. So it could be like The Thing, like
Yeah.
just some giant parasitic like doppelganger, or but first part question, out of the classic movie monsters, which one's your favorite?
I would still have to say, I would say Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay.
Like, I really liked it as like a kid and stuff. I even had like a little creature from the Black Lagoon like action figure and stuff, and it was all green. And like when you I had like a button thing on its like stomach. Like when you pressed it, I think it like glowed some, and I'd like play with it like in the bath and stuff. That's so good. Oh,
I think I know of the like toys that you're talking about because I'm pretty sure I had the Wolfman, which is my favorite classic monster. And you would press a button, and his torso would like the middle part would flip, and then one was him as like a human, regular Joe Blow. But when you pressed it, it would be the Wolfman, so it would be like his werewolf head. But yeah, definitely Wolfman or Werewolf is my favorite as far as the classic monsters go. Unfortunately, there's not too many good werewolf movies out there. There's definitely been a few good ones, but there's not many.
right. So then,
And like I'm pretty sure anyone who has watched any werewolf movies, pretty much Werewolf in London is probably your best one, just because the practical effects in it still hold up today. Like most werewolf movies nowadays use CGI and it's just so bad.
so then, if you had to pick a more modern one, what would your modern monster be? Or whatever, just not even modern, but one that's not one of the classic Universal monsters.
So I would say probably the more like alien type or something like that. So yeah, leaning towards the Thing. But if we want to go into like a movie franchise, I guess Tremors.
Tremors.
It is so bad it's good, in my opinion. With the graboids, these ginormous, like prehistoric worms that have like snakes for tongues, drag you in, can't really like sense you unless it's like vibrations or anything like that. But then, of course, like if they eat enough, they'll give birth to like a different kind of version of graboid where they can like sense you like predator with like heat vision kind of thing. I mean, they've definitely gotten real cheesy with it, but I love cheesy.
So I would have to say for mine, I'm gonna have to go with Godzilla.
Okay, so a kaiju.
Yeah, like I love me my Godzilla. I got in my little room here. I got my magic cards, my hollow Japanese magic cards with the Godzilla lands and stuff. I got my little Godzilla action figure over here.
God, I'm trying to think which one was the Hydra. I want to say it was King Ghidorah.
Yeah, with the three heads.
Yes, that's my favorite.
And then
one. Although
he gets
Godzilla is a boss.
and then he gets his middle head cut off, and then he gets the mecha head in the middle.
Yeah, they get real weird with it, like with their movies over there.
Oh yeah.
They just start turning them into giant robots and they fight each other, like. And like the storylines and pretty much all of them make no sense.
It's like
They're just monster movies.
yeah, but it's like one of those things where it's kind of like it's at that time of like around then like Power Rangers and stuff like that. Like the story is just there, and it's like it's not about who the fuck cares. It's like monster of the week. Here you go, fight it. Like that's all anybody cares about.
Okay, so kaijus. And of course, like I'm a huge fan of zombies and like the whole infected genre. So like you throw in like 28 Days Later, um, or like The Walking Dead or Night of the Living Dead. I mean, just pretty much anything with dead in the title, you're probably looking at a zombie.
Dude, so I'm like just waiting for the day. Like, they did 28 days later, and then they did 28 weeks later, and
Where's months?
Ex-
Or years?
That's my thing. Is like, dude, we're getting to the point where it's like they could literally do 28 years later, like 28 years later.
Literally. Yeah, I mean, like, did we beat it? Or is there only like, God, like, I know it's such a bad franchise, and I'm so glad they're going to reboot it, but Resident Evil, the movies franchise, terrible. I mean, for its day, because I think it started in the early 90s, yeah, sure, it's basically just an action movie with some zombies in it. It was good, but then they kept going with it.
Yeah, it got so convoluted by the end that it was just like, what the fuck is even happening?
And of course, like, anyone who loves Resident Evil, like, this character does not exist anywhere. Like, you literally just created this super soldier just for the movie's sake. And it, after so many movies, you're like, just die already.
Yeah, no, they totally did those movies like a massive injustice. Like, I remember, like, the first one, I was like, okay, like, this was, pretty good. Like, it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't say it was great either. And then the second one had Nemesis in it, and I'm like, alright, like, Nemesis, sure. And then it's like the third one, they're like in Las Vegas in the desert, and there's like a million fucking Alices now, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, they're trying to replicate her, and it's like, okay, now we're getting a little crazy with it. And just like the video games, like, they kept going with it, and even with the video games, like, 1, 2, 3, 4 was good, but that was, like, when it started to go downhill. Because, like, 5 and 6 were atrocious, and, like, every, like, offshoot game that they had, which I think they had one, like, Outbreak or something. Raccoon Police or whatever, and it's like, no, stop. But then they brought it back with 7, and of course now they're doing the remakes, and I think they're actually going to do 8 as well.
Yeah, Village.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious where they're going to go with that, but if they keep it even remotely close to what they did with 7, it should be pretty good.
So it's so funny. I have the most unpopular opinion of, I actually think 5 was good. Like, I don't think 5 by no means is the best game. And it's definitely not the worst, because I think that's 6. But for, like, what it was, and mind you, my opinion is also skewed, because I never played 5 with the shitty AI, which is what everybody complained about. Like, I actually
played it with a buddy.
I played it with a friend, and I've played it a couple times. Like, I think I played through with it with Megan, and then I think I played through it with my friend Eric and stuff. And playing through it with a friend, like, even though, it's in Africa, it's like in the daytime, a lot of the enemy types and stuff like that are just like reskins of shit from like 4 and stuff like that. But overall, it was still a fun co-op, like couch co-op game with a friend. So it was enjoyable. Whereas 6 was not a fun couch co-op game, even with a friend.
So, understanding that, yes, it can definitely be more enjoyable because it is a couch co-op. But when you dive into, like, the whole, like, zombie storyline of Resident Evil, they're not good.
Well, no, like the storyline in 5 was bad. Like, you weren't even dealing with the fucking T virus at that point. They like had like a whole new strain of virus. Like, the only saving grace with the storyline for 5 was that fucking Wesker was the main villain, which I dug, and you fight Wesker at the end. And then they did the DLC for it or whatever, where you go to like the mansion or whatever, and you fight Wesker, and you play as Jill Valentine and stuff, which was cool.
Yeah, that sounds dope. I never played the DLC.
Yeah, no, the DLC was really
I feel
good.
like that would actually be way better than the actual game.
That's what a lot of people said, was that the DLC was better. Which, the DLC was more Resident Evil than the actual fucking game was, but it was fun. And I'm excited that Chris Redfield's going to be in Resident Evil 8. So,
nice. So they're bringing him back.
Yeah, in the trailer they show that he shows up and stuff. And that's why I was so excited for 6, was because I'm a huge fucking Leon Kennedy fanboy. And when I saw that Leon was going to be in 6, I was like, yes, bitch, like, bring it. And then I played 6, and I was like, no, do not like this.
So here's a question. You liked the boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Chucky?
So, like, I watched the Child's Play, like, movies as a kid. Like, I've never seen, like, I watched, I think, Child's Play, like, 1, 2, 3. And then I think after 3 was when they did Bride of Chucky. Which I didn't, let me pull up the list, because it's like, I didn't watch Bride of Chucky, and I don't think I watched the one after that either.
Seed of Chucky?
Yeah, I don't think I watched that one either. But then I watched, like, I think 1 or 2 after that. Yeah, I watched, here they all are. So there's Child's Play, Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, which I watched all of those. So the 1988 through 1991 movies. And then there was Bride of Chucky, which I never watched, because that came out like 7 years later. And then Seed of Chucky, which I never watched that either. And then I watched both Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, which were both okay. Like, I was never a huge Chucky fan anyway, and I was just kind of like, they were like pretty much straight to DVD fucking movies, and I was like, And then I watched the Child's Play reboot with Mark Hamill in it, and I was like, man, what a waste. Like, you had Mark Hamill, and it was just like, the doll just even looked weird. Like, I'm like, I see what they're going for, because it's like a modern take on Child's Play. Obviously, people don't really play with like dolls anymore, so the fact that it has like Bluetooth and like app integration and shit like that, I get where it's coming from, but like the face of the doll and stuff just doesn't look scary. It just looks very off-putting.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but I've seen pretty much all the others. So I even saw The Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, which you're not missing much.
Yeah, I don't imagine so. And that's why, like, I didn't watch it. Like, when they came, like, the whole fact that I'm like, now there's, like, a woman Chucky. Like, I was just kind of like...
Which was his girlfriend.
Yeah, like, it just kind of became, like, a whole thing. And I was like, really? I was like... I mean, I guess the one redeeming quality about that is at least it's still, like, the normal Chucky doll, so like his face is all scarred and like fucked up still. But besides that, I'm like, because then yeah, with the new, after the 2004 Seed of Chucky, like once they did Curse of Chucky and stuff, like the doll or whatever was like different, and this one still, like, the Curse of Chucky doll, I think, looks better than the 2019 one. But it... Okay, no, this was the same one. Alright, I do remember. I'm sorry. I'm looking at pictures of it now. And it's, like, a different doll, but it still has all the scars and shit. Like, I remember, like, initially it didn't. And then, like, they, like, pulled off, like... It had, like, makeup or, like, whatever, like, on it. And then it actually still had all the same fucking scars across the face and shit that the other doll did. I remember now. It's all coming back to me now. But
yeah, that one wasn't too bad for what it was. And then Cult of Chucky is when, like, the chick's in an insane asylum and he's just screwing with her at that point. That was... I mean, it's worth a watch, but don't expect too much by any means. Like, it's a Chucky movie. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Right, you're just kind of like, eh.
I'm here to see this little doll thing kill some people. You know, have some fun with it. Sit back and enjoy. And that's basically what they become. Like, they're not really horror movies. They're almost comedies. And by all means, today they are. Because he's literally cracking jokes as he's killing people.
Well, yeah, it's like the doll version of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Kinda.
Dude, well, that's
Except, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, like, yeah, he was, super weird, but he was also kind of scary, too, because, like, he shows up in these kids' nightmares, and I'm pretty sure he kills Johnny Depp in one of them.
Who,
like
Nightmare on Elm
Johnny
Street?
Depp.
That was the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes. Yeah, young Johnny Depp, just, like, I think he's the one who dies in the waterbed, right?
Yeah, it's like the very beginning of the movie. He fucking swallows him in, and then like a giant fountain of
Gush of
fucking blood comes out. Yeah.
Yes. But, like, he's definitely way scarier than the doll, if we're gonna be honest.
Yeah. Dude, I was like, speaking of, have you ever watched any of the fucking Puppet Master movies?
Oh. Once again, this goes that whole trope. Like, once you hit, like, 4, 5, and 6 and all these others, like, it's just there to be there. But the first one, I remember that one. After that, it's just a blur. But Puppet Master wasn't half bad, like, when it first started.
Do you know how many of them there are?
Well,
if you had to guess,
apparently,
before looking it up, if you had to guess how many there are,
I would guess around 7 or 8. However, I already started looking.
There's 15 of them.
Yeah, it's in the double digits. And of course, I'm always under the impression that, like, pretty much every horror franchise hits around the 7 or 8 and then it teeters off. And then they probably reboot it or something. But yeah, this one, there's a lot. And I'm not going to lie, I have definitely not seen them all.
Yeah, I definitely have not.
I'm pretty sure I've only seen the first 2, and that's it.
Yeah, I can't. My thing that blows me away is that there's one that came out in fucking 2019, Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, which is a reboot, a 2018 horror comedy film. No. The film is the 12th entry in the Puppet Master franchise and is the first film produced by Fangoria. Whatever. It's a reboot of the series.
Oh god, they love doing dumb stuff.
And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, why? Like, was there really that big a fan base that you wanted to reboot it?
Because, let's see. Puppet Master, like 1990, 91, 99, like... Axis Rising. What? Yeah, like, they're getting crazy with this.
Yeah, like, it just gets kind of...
Okay, so I might have actually seen the 4th one, just because some of them look really familiar. But I'm also wondering, like, if they're all in all of them. And they don't use, like, different puppets for them.
Well, my thing is, like, if you go onto the Wikipedia, like the first thing you get, like it shows all the movies, but then on there too, there's also a storyline chronology that breaks down the chronological order of the movies based on the setting and like a location and year and shit. And the fact that Puppet Master 1, which is the fucking first movie, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Apparently the 8th movie chronologically in this fucking series. I'm like, really? You really had to make like 7 movies that supposedly take place before your first movie?
Some kind of prequels? Because, yeah, it looks like it's following the White Masked one, and he's a freaking Nazi, apparently.
Yeah,
is what it looks like.
It's like their main mascot is the little white.
And of course, they have one where it looks like it takes place in the Wild West or something like that. Like they have a puppet with 6 arms and 6 pistols. Like, come on. And a cowboy hat, of course.
Because, of course. When you're in the Wild West, you gotta be wearing a hat.
You better be rooting and tooting.
And by God, be shooting. Love it.
Five-0! Papa!
Dude, did you ever watch Brightburn?
I have not, but that's the one where, like, Superman's evil kid or something like that?
That's basically the premise. The whole premise is, like, for the movie, I mean, it has nothing to do with Superman, but that's obviously, like, the inspiration behind it, is the whole premise is, like, basically, like, what if when Superman, like, came to Earth, you know, and, like, was a kid and was being raised by his parents, what if instead of, like, going on to, like, being raised with high moral values and to, like, be good, he was just, like, a little fucking psychopath?
I mean, to be honest, that's probably what would really happen if some alien came here with superpowers and they're a kid. Like, you damn know well they're not going to have good morals.
Well, yeah, and, like, abuses them and then realizes, like, the authoritative parent figure is like, why do I need to listen to you? Like, I could fucking kill you in, like, an instant.
I can shoot laser beams out my eye and snap your neck just by, like, farting. Like, come on.
Dude, that's like, have you ever watched any of the, like, the DC animated movies?
You're gonna have to be more specific?
Like, Flashpoint?
I'm gonna Google this.
Like, the animated, like, because DC...
Because I've seen the Batman stuff, so if you want, like...
Well, like, there's Batman ones, and, like, there's Justice League, and there's been a couple Wonder Woman ones, and Superman ones, and stuff. And, like, Teen Titans...
So I have not seen it, but I know about it because, you know, comics and stuff.
Yeah.
But I have not seen any of the animated movies about that one in particular, at least. I mean, the only, like, animated movie, like, that I've seen is, like, 1 or 2 of the Batman ones. I mean, apparently they have some really old school ones, like Scooby-Doo and Batman. Like, come on.
No.
Like...
No, so, like, a lot of the DC animated movies and stuff, like, I mean, they're animated movies, but it's, like, a lot of them, it's definitely, like, not meant for kids. Like, it's definitely targeted more towards a older audience.
Like Batman vs. Dracula?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't want your kid to watch that.
I mean, Dracula's scary, bro.
But yeah, like, the whole point, like, I love, like, out of all the DC animated ones, the Flashpoint Paradox one's my favorite. And it's like, the whole premise is that, like, at the beginning of the movie, like, it has Reverse Flash in it, who's my favorite DC villain. And
He's the one in the yellow suit, right?
Yeah. He has the exact same powers as the Flash.
Just evil.
Yeah, dude, he's so fucked up. It's so good. And like he's the one in this version where like there's been multiple things about how Barry Allen's mom dies or whatever, but like one of the main storylines of her dying is that Reverse Flash kills her. And he like stops him at the beginning of the movie and stuff, and he's like, why do you even try, doing this when no matter what, I'm always going to be able to stop you? And he's all like, yet, and no matter how many people you save, he's like, you'll never save her. And it like eats away at him to the point where he runs so fast that he goes back in time to save his mom from getting murdered by Reverse Flash. And in doing so, he fucks up the entire DC universe to the point where he comes back to the present and like his mom's alive, but he's no longer the Flash because he never became the Flash. And it caused a ripple effect throughout the entire DC universe that like changed the entire chain of events for everybody. So the night Bruce Wayne's parents died, instead of Bruce's parents getting shot, Bruce ends up getting shot and dies in the alley. And his dad
the father becomes Batman.
Yeah, his dad becomes Batman, but then his mom becomes the Joker.
Oh.
And it like drives her crazy. And like
all of this sounds vaguely familiar. Like just in the back of my mind, like the archives of just like nerd stuff.
Yeah, dude.
And I know based off of the comics and even the cartoons and just like I'm pretty sure even the TV shows kind of touch base on it as well. The CW does. The Flash in general, because they have Flashpoint in there at some point where he messes up the timeline and everything's jacked because he saved his mom. And of course he comes to the realization later, like, I have to let her die.
Yeah.
And of course that just really messes with him because he's like, that's my mom.
Yeah, because in the comics when he did it, it was like the Flashpoint thing was like an entire DC Universe event and stuff. And there was like a miniseries with just Batman. And then with like Wonder Woman and stuff, like Wonder Woman and Aquaman end up having like an affair and she kills Aquaman's wife, which causes a war of like the Amazon versus like the Atlanteans and stuff. And it's like World War III like on the surface with them. And like Superman never landed in the farm. Instead, he ends up landing in like some secret like Pentagon style like base, and they end up keeping him underground as like and like experimenting on him and shit.
So I know this is my first podcast, and you busted my cherry. Thank you.
Anytime.
But just looking at the timeline here, I pulled it up. We're hitting over 150 minutes. How long do you want to go?
I mean, we can wrap it up. Like,
or 1 hour and 52 minutes. My bad.
Like, if you're done, Jeff, we've off trailed so much off of Halloween stuff that we're talking about DC Universe stuff now at this point.
Yeah, we're not even talking about Halloween anymore.
Well, life opens.
Batman vs. Dracula, that's Halloween, right?
Yeah, I was like, people dress up as these characters for Halloween, Jeff.
I mean, there's people who dress up as these characters not on Halloween.
Yeah, I can't go to the grocery store without seeing someone's fucking kid dressed up as Spider-Man running around pulling fucking Fruit Loops off the shelf.
I mean, you can go to like any store Walmart in particular. I'm sure you can find some weird stuff.
Yeah, I was like, you go to Walmart, the kid dressed up as Spider-Man's the least of your concerns.
Yeah, you're more worried about that grandma who has her hoo-hoos in her freaking like spandex or whatever.
It's like running over,
not wearing a top,
running
just
over,
the spandex bottom.
Running over her tit with the little electric scooter. But yeah, that's fine, Jeff. We can wrap this up. It was.
I mean, it's not like we're not going to talk again.
I mean, that's true. And, it was a spooktacular episode. We talked about Halloween costumes and candy and horror movies for the most part, while off-trailing here and there. But I'd say it was a spooktacular episode.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
But, I appreciate you coming on. It was a struggle to get Jeff to come on, but I was glad I got him to come on.
Well, when you have a whole bunch of family visiting, it makes it difficult. Like, think Home Alone, that family, all of them.
At once.
Yes.
And you just want to be home alone.
Yes. And also, I don't live in a giant mansion. So, it's very cramped.
You're like, not in this economy.
Oh, God. I wish I was the 1%.
Well, once Biden's president. Well, all right. We'll wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for listening to our spooktacular episode. I hope you guys had a good Halloween and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. And happy Turkey Day when that comes out.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble.